So my bad, bro. I'm here. I'm here. What's going on?
Just want to get a mic check.
Yeah,
Uh,
can you hear me? How
yep,
it sound?
you sound good. Sound good.
All right, good.
I'm good.
What up, A1? I knew you
Look,
was
man,
gonna hop in here somewhere.
I'm just here to moderate, brother. I'm not. I don't have a dog in a fight. I'm here
We
to
just keep
moderate.
we just keeping the time. My other moderator on the way. They just running behind, so we got two moderators.
Well, I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. Salute
All
to
right,
the
so let's
brother, man.
so let's get this on, man. So this is going to be a 3 round bout, which is going to be 10 to 12 minutes long. We're going to start off with an introduction from both the content contestants that's going to be engaging in the debate, and afterwards we're going to have a 5 minute discussion. Okay. So with no further ado, in the corner number one, we got Not a Coincidence, his record is currently 0-1. Okay, so give it a round of applause for Not a Coincidence. All right,
Yo, yo, you supposed to be non-partial, brother. You already
coming to
trying to
coming to the
go.
ring, coming to the ring. In this corner, we got the copper color Grizzly. I don't even know his record, but I know he's like 50-0 or something to that effect. With no further ado, we got the brother Copper Grizzly. Give the brother a round of applause, please.
Yep, shout out to
Let's get
everybody.
ready to unload.
Yep. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Shout out to everybody that's in the building. Definitely ready to get it in. Let's make it happen, you guys.
No doubt.
So how we gonna do this? We're gonna flip a coin. We got a
Um,
coin.
well, look, he's the challenger, so he's going first. But hold up. If he go first with the introduction round, then you got to go first in round one. So whoever go first in the introduction round will go first in round one. Is that
Okay.
fair?
I mean, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I guess I'll start the introduction round off.
All right. Let's get with it. I'll mute my mic. Let's get it.
Shout out to everybody in the building. Anything you want to say before everybody gets started, man? Before we get started, shout out to everybody in the building. Today's bout is going to be a discussion that's probably been uttered and talked about probably somewhat within the last few years of dealing with history in America, dealing with slavery in America. One of the histories about slavery in America that's not uttered is white slavery, right? Uh, the forced servitude and imprisonment and the forced labor of pale skins in America is a story that hasn't been uttered by most people in certain conscious communities. So we're going to be reflecting on history in America, slavery in America, and be breaking down that white people was enslaved in America. And under some people understanding, they are under the belief that white people are impossible. It's impossible for white peoples to be enslaved in the Americas for some odd reason, but the data shows, the record shows, the literature shows. So I don't need 5 minutes to break that down. I'm ready to get into it. Let's get into it, y'all. Shout out to
All right. So
announcements now.
All right,
so
all
on your
right. Shout out to BAP. Moderator, real quick. Can you ask the chat not to block anybody on this show because people paid to be here.
Yeah. We're not gonna block nobody, but we're gonna watch the disrespect in the chat. If you do get blocked, you can go back and watch the rewatch. Okay, so try to watch y'all disrespect. Keep it peaceful in the chat. No disrespect will be tolerated amongst nobody. So y'all just keep it respectful in the chat, and you guys will be able to stay in the chat and comment. All right.
That's a fact. So let's get it. So it's
All
on
right,
you.
so the debate, white slavery in America, right? So BAP, he's leaving out the second part. He's been doing it. So it's white slavery in America and the black and Negroes own them. There is no record. There is no evidence for any of this, right? Um, they want to confuse the word slavery with servant. Well, I'm gonna show you clearly by law those are two different things. Their whole argument is based on a etymological fallacy, We're going to talk about that, and then we're just going to look at the evidence. And the evidence is going to show that this thing that they're creating, this white slavery myth, because that's what it is, it never happened. It's just a figment of their imagination and the people who they are currently aligning themselves with. And those are anti-black groups. That's it. I'm ready to get into it.
All right, so round one, I'm gonna set the timer. Make sure you guys is ready. Need any extra time, please let me know ahead of time. So starting at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round one is on. It's on, not a coincidence. Let's get there. Bro, if you saying something, you gotta unmute your mic, man. You're already 30 seconds in. I'll give you an extra 30 seconds, bro.
Yeah, your mic muted.
Oh, damn. All right, can you hear me now? My bad, y'all. Let's get to it. So here we go.
I know you're a little. All right, let's get it. I don't know if you saying something, bro. We can't hear a darn thing from you, my brother.
If you're playing video, you're gonna have to do it and share it with your audio. Screen share with audio showing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it wasn't playing nothing. Yeah, but that audio shouldn't even coming up.
It's coming up. Is you got to click it. It's in the left hand bottom. It's in the bottom of the left hand corner, bro. It's a click link to play audio.
Yeah, it's a add sound or audio or some shit right there.
All right, man. So I'm gonna start it all over again, man. Get set up. Get your screen sharing and everything going. He said, "God is."
All right, let's go. Man. I got it. Let's go.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
If you playing audio, bro, we don't hear anything.
Why the fuck is it? How y'all don't hear shit?
Chat, do you guys hear anything as well? You're not showing
Hold on.
sharing it when you screen sharing it and you're clicking the particular tabs. It gives you an option at the bottom left corner to add. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Not a coincidence. Since you walking up the street, we're gonna do whether or not white. Hold on. Since you was pulling up white slaves in America, we already got that. Let's put that Negroes and Indians own white slaves in America, brother. Let's do that.
All right, I gotta unshare and share my screen again. All right. There we go. So let's go, y'all. My bad for the little technical difficulty. Share my screen. So we heard it was white slaves in America, the Negroes and Indians owned, right? So let's address the elephant in the room, right? That's the etymological fallacy that Aboriginal power likes to use. So what is an etymological fallacy? It's the assumption that the present day meaning of a word is similar to the historical meaning of the word, of historical meaning. This fallacy ignores the evolution of language and heart of linguistics. The fallacy usually committed when one finds the historical meaning of a word more palatable or conducive to his or her argument. So this is when people like to say this: slave means Slav. Only white people can be a slave. So they're using that original tense of the word and not allowing the word to go through evolution like all words do. Like when we look at the etymology of the word slave, we clearly see, so circa 1300s. So from the 1300s on, it's a person who is chattel or property of another, right? It's not the secondary sense anymore. Like where the word did originate from these Slavic people and how they was getting sold in places like Europe, Asia, and Africa, not America, not America. Etymology does not say anything about America. But like I said, they use this word and they only apply the old uses of it instead of what it actually means. A person who is the chattel of or property of another, right? So what are we doing? Slavery is an institution created is by laws, right? So this is Cornell law. Slavery is the practice of forced labor and restricted liberty. It is also a regimen where one class of people, the slave owners, could force another, the slave, to work and limit their liberties. So we'll see in laws how certain people were classified as slaves in law, certain people were restricted of liberties in law, right? In the United States, individuals were forced into slavery, born into it, and were slaves for life. And that is in contrary to what an indentured servant is. Indentured servant signs contracts for these things, right? So, what's a slave by Law Dictionary, the Black Laws Dictionary, Aboriginal, one of Aboriginal's favorite sources, right? It says a person who is wholly subject to the will of another, one who has no freedom of action, but whose persons and services are wholly under the control of another. We don't see anything about ethnicity in this definition or the other definition. There is nothing about ethnicity in these things. It's strictly about controlling another person. Even when we go to the Bouvier's dictionary, a slave, a man which is by law deprived of his liberty for life and becomes a property of another. The slave has no political rights and generally has no civil rights. So you'll see that these indentured servants did have rights. They could go to court. They could do this. They could do that, that the slave couldn't, right? The children of female slaves follows the condition of their mother and are themselves slaves. So if the mother is a slave, then the child is a slave. Well, the laws you will see was designated to only be the children of Negro women, not white women, not Slavic women, like they like to interchange the words with, but Negro women. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So 3, Maryland, Missouri, and Virginia. Slaves are declared by the statute to be personal estate. Again, this is property, has nothing to do with ethnicity. So in general, a slave is considered a thing and not a person, but sometimes he is considered as a person as when he commits a crime. For example, now mind you, this is in law. For example, 2 white persons and a slave. So if the slave is the white person, why are they using white person twice in this example, right? And again, this comes out of Bouvier's 6th edition, right? So with the Aboriginal community, let's get into it. Differences between a slave and indentured servant. How much time I got? I got a time check?
Yeah, 4 minutes and 37 seconds and counting.
All right. So differences between a slave and indentured servant, right? In the Aboriginal community, they try to act like there is no differences in these instances, right? So let's look at this. Indentured servant signs contracts or committed crimes with being an indentured servant. Service lasted for a period of time determined by said contract. Had the legal right to testify and petition in court. Received land, money, and food to sustain themselves after indenture was over. You don't see that with slaves. Never. Never. And you definitely don't see it in law. Once freed, could own white servants and Negro Indian slaves. if a Negro got free, he can only own a Negro slave. He can only own somebody of his complexion, right? Enslaved person, right, was born into slavery. Children of a Negro woman take the status of the mother. This is in Virginia, 1662. This became the law of the land. Had no legal rights or protection from the courts. Um, Slave couldn't summon his masters to court. He couldn't sue anybody. He couldn't summon the police if he was in trouble. None of that. Received no compensation for work. Laws that limited movements and actions. Negroes and Indians could not own white people. That's a law in Virginia, 1670. And we're going to get into those things. So one of the first things we got up, this is 1662. Negro women to serve according to the condition of the mother, right? And you can find this in Henning's Statute at Large, Volume 2, page 170, right? So whereas some doubts have arisen whether a children got by any Englishman upon a Negro woman should be slave or free, be it therefore enacted and declared by this present Grand Assembly that all children born in this country shall be held bond or free only according to the condition of the mother. Now, mind you, which mother did they point out? They're talking about white men with black women, right? And that if any Christian shall commit fornication with a Negro man or woman, he or she so offended shall pay double the fine imposed by the former act. So you see them intentionally trying to get people to stay away from the intermixing, so that they can only have what type of population? If there's only Negro men having children with Negro women, it's only going to be Negro slaves, right? So, and you also see in colonial laws, Christian stands for a white person, right? So you see at the end it says if any Christian, they're talking about white people, right? We like to play with this word. Oh, anybody can be a Christian. Yeah, today. Back then, people could convert, but for society to consider you a Christian, that was something different. How much time I got left?
You got 1 minute and 19 seconds.
All right, 1 minute and 19. I'm not even gonna go to the next slide. But yeah, so this law also what it did was it changed old laws that the child usually followed the condition of the father. But when they came to America and they were dealing with the Negroes and the Indians and that intermixing, they realized quick that we have to flip this around. So they established a law in 1662, and we're gonna get to some more laws in the next round. I'll leave it there.
All right, good shit. Not a coincidence. All right, all right, all right. Moderator, what are you doing over there? A1, if you're talking, you muted, brother. Yeah. Jaguar. We got Jaguar on here. Jaguar, what's going on, brother? I know you was initially supposed to be moderating. So
Salute.
we going into the top of round one if you want to set the time.
All right. 10 minutes.
Yes, sir. 10 minutes.
All right. Just whenever you start, just let me know, man.
All right, no problem. I'm ready to go right now. Let's go.
All right. You going.
All right, let's get it. All right, so the first little bit that I'm going to be breaking down is the etymology of the word Slav. Right, it said one of the people who inhabited most of East Europe. That's late 14th century, from medieval Latin, shortened into Proto-Slavic, right? A Slav, which is probably related to Slavo word speech, which suggests the name originally identified a member of a speech community. right? So it's letting you know who it belongs to, the people who occupied most of Europe, right? And when you get into contemporary data from university studies dealing with the word Slav, which is what I'm about to pull up right now, I'm gonna pull up a Philadelphia State University study, uh, and we're gonna get to that right now. All right, and the word slave. Um, So, what it gets into is that the word derives the word slave and captures a bit of European history to explain why the two words Slav and slave are similar. They are, in fact, historically identical. The word Slav first appears in English around 1290, right? Spelled Sklav, right? The spelling based off Old French Slav and Medieval Slav is first recorded around 800, which comes from the Byzantine Greek, which appears around 500, right? The name was then adopted by the Slavs or the English Slavonian or Slovene, right? The spelling of the English slave closer to the original Slavic form, which appears in English in the 1500s. Slavs become slaves around the beginning of the 1900s, beginning of the Holy Roman Empire. And this, so now we're getting into the origins of these words Slav. And so now we have a clear understanding of who these people is. All right. So let's get straight into it, you guys. We don't want to waste any time. Let's pull up the next article. Let's pull up the next one. So we can go into early white slavery in America. According to Burn Davis, reading in the New York Review of Books, right, October 11th, 1990, page 37, it states, as late as the 14th and the 15th centuries, continuing shipments of white slaves, some of the Christians flawed from the booming slave markets, right? So off the rip, we already got the documents and people referring to white people as slaves in the Americas, right? Not only in America's various different places, the Black Sea, they consider white slaves. Into Italy, they consider white slaves. Spain, they consider white slaves. Egypt, the Mediterranean, even in Barbados, it doesn't skip and it doesn't exempt the same term, referring to these same people in the Virginia colonies in New England. So it says showed few scruples about reducing the less fortunate countryman to a status less different from that of chattel slavery. The prevalence and the suffering of white slaves serves of indentures in the early modern period suggests that there was nothing vettable about the limitations of plantation slavery to the people of African origin. So it wasn't an exclusive to just African people, right? So we're gonna get into 1659, the English Parliament debate, right? Practicing the selling of British whites into slavery into the New World. In the debate, the whites were referred to not as indentured servants, but as of slaves, right? Who enslavement threatened the liberties of all Englishmen, according to Thomas Burton Parliament Diaries of 1656. All right. So I want to skip over to something else because we want to get into some archaeological studies of 2003, right? So we're going to go to an archaeological study in 2003. Give me just a second, you guys. All right. According to Edmund Burke, right, an apostle of a treatise on government, right? It said, let me go up. Sorry about that. All right. A shadow into the myth. It says slavery that can have everywhere is like a weed that grows in every soil. The man in the property of another is a mere chattel through he continue a man. Right. And that's just a simple quote from Edward Burton in the Statutes of Government. It said in the summer of 2003, archaeologists excavated a 17th century site outside of Minneapolis, Maryland, and discovered a skeleton of a teenage boy. Examination showed that the boy had died sometimes in the 1600s. He had been 16 years old, had tuberculosis. His skull showed evidence of fearful mouth infection, and a herniated disc and other injuries towards his back were synonymous with years of hard toil. Toil is synonymous with slavery. The youth was neither African nor Native American. He was Northern European, probably English. His remains were found in what to be a 17th century cellar house and behind the house, and the hole under a pit of household waste. It was if the boy was had little account for, and he died, and he was thrown out with the rubbish. This is according to anthropologists. So the forensic anthropologists believe that the youth was probably an indentured servant, right? The deceptively mild label commonly used to describe hundreds of white men and women that were shipped from Britain, from America into the Caribbean in about 150 years before the Boston Tea Party of 1773. Most of these servants paid their passengers to the Americas by selling their rights and be the labor of numbers for years, although forcefully exiled and sold to colonies as servants up to 14 years, many were effectively enslaved. Okay. So most of these people were indefinitely enslaved. Okay. So this is what we have to understand when we're dealing with the history of the peoples here in America. It said Britain sold tons of people here. You see what I'm saying? And we want to get into some of the history of what they was talking about when they sold these people into the Virginia colony. So let me pull up my next article. Shout out to everybody in the building. It's already over with. It's already talking about white slaves. They fall into cultivation in 1613 of an acceptable tobacco crop in Virginia. The need for labor accelerated. Slavery was viewed as the cheapest and the most expanded way to provide a necessary workforce due to harsh conditions, beating, starvation, disease. Survival rates for slaves rarely exceeded 2 years, thus in the high of the demand sustained by the contemporary flows of white slaves from England, Ireland, Scotland from 1618 to 1775, who were imported to the American colony, to the American colonial masters. So already it's talking about white slaves from England, Ireland, Scotland. It's documented. It's documented. It's documented that white people was forced and went through more toil than alleged Africans went through. They was beat to death. They was threw out with the rubbish. Even while the records show that so-called black slave was treated as if they wasn't even slaves. But yet, we're not even supposed to be finding no records of slaves at all. Yet alone in 1618, a whole 1 year before the first African slaves allegedly came. You got England slaves, Ireland slaves, Scotland slaves being imported to the the colonies in Virginia in 1618. Okay? And yes, Negroes and Indians are synonymous, and those people owned slaves as well. Who you think was the colonial masters? Okay, so let's get into this. These whites in the New World consisted of street children, plucked from London's black back alley, prostitutes, and impoverished migrants, searching for a brighter future and willing to sign up for indentured servitude. So the indentured servitude was a program that they had told them about over there. And this is under Oliver Cromwell, and why he's trying to build up his economy, right? Trying to build up his economy. He's laboring it as a program. The only person that's going to receive any benefits is the people that's running that government. These people didn't receive anything. And when they came here, they was not referred to as indentured servant, even though that's what they signed up for. What they came into, slavery. Okay. How do I know? Because it said around 1618, at the start of their colonial slave trade, the English began to seize in the shipping of Virginia impoverished children, even toddlers from London slums. From impoverished parents, sought they.
Hey, time, bro. Time.
All right, let's
It's
go.
time. Give me a minute.
Let's go.
Nice round, man. Uh, I don't know how exactly A1 was conducting the moderation, but I'm gonna let you have it,
Jack,
A1.
I'm back.
All right,
I'm
work,
back.
work.
Just 10-minute rounds. That's how we doing. It's not a coincidence time. He's up the bat. If you want to set the time, go ahead and set it. If not, I'll do it.
All right, I got it ready. If You know,
You
I
good,
handle
man? You good?
yeah, whenever you
Good.
ready, not a coincidence. It's on you, bro. Take your time, if you know what I'm saying, you got like 10 seconds. But I got it ready, so it's on you, bro.
Yeah, you can share my screen. So I'm just gonna keep reminding y'all.
Listen, not a
You know
coincidence.
that shit don't even
Not a
sound
coincidence.
right.
Not a coincidence. Since you barking up the tree, we're gonna do whether or not white. Hold on. Since you was pulling up white slaves was in America, we already got that. Let's prove that Negroes and Indians own white slaves in America, brother. Let's do that.
All right, so share my screen again. Hold on. So what we got from BAP is no actual sources. We got white people saying something happened. So when we gonna get to the laws, when we gonna get to the actual transactions, when we gonna get to the people, right? So I left off with Negro women, children to serve according to the condition of the mother from 1662 in Virginia, right? So this is where I left off. Oh shit! This is where I left off. So this is from an article, The Observer, London, Greater London, England, 1852. Says the white slave, a story of life in Virginia. So I pulled out a couple excerpts from the article. So it says, let the white slave speak for himself. Had I been allowed to choose my own paternity, could I possibly have selected a more desirable father? But by the laws and customs of Virginia, it is not the father, but the mothers whose rank and condition determine that of the child. And alas, my mother was a concubine, a slave. He describes his mother as extremely beautiful, the traces of African blood. The traces of African blood by which her veins was contaminated was distinctly visible, but the tint which imparted to her complexion only served to give a peculiar richness to the blush that mantled over her cheek. For my mother and I, from my mother, I inherited some imperceptible portions of African blood, and with it the base and cursed condition of a slave. So again, this is setting the precedent on who is going to be a slave and who's not going to be a slave. Right? Here we go. So Negroes and Indians could not own white people. Virginia law 1670. Right? This comes from Statute at Large, Volume 2. Right? It is enacted that no Negro or Indian, though baptized and enjoyed their own freedom, shall be capable of any such purchase of Christians, but yet not debarred from buying any of their own nation. So you see here, like I told you, I'm going to show you more where this word Christian, they're talking about white people. So you could tell they're talking about white people because they're saying Negroes and Indians, even if you're baptized. So if you're baptized, that makes you a Christian. So now we understand that even in this scenario, these Negro and Indians are baptized. They're Christians, and it's telling them they can't buy any Christian. So they're telling them they can't buy white people, and they can only own people that look like them, right? So that was in 1670. So it's not a coincidence the Johnson family lost all their land in Virginia because he was black. So this is Anthony Johnson. In August of 1670, an all-white jury ruled that Anthony's original land in Virginia could be escheated or reverted to England because he was a Negro and by consequence an alien. Right? So there's a court documents from Anthony Johnson, 1670, right? So like again, he's showing you books. I'm giving you the primaries. I'm giving you the actual things that happen in history, right? We don't want opinions from people who are trying to rewrite history, like what we get from White Cargo and these other books. That I don't know why they don't go to the actual source in the book. If it says the source, why not go to the source? But they rather give you the third hand account instead of going to the actual source of these perverted histories. Right. So again, this is Anthony Johnson, 1670. Right. He's one of these famous people that they like to use. But if everything was so up on the up and up, why did he lose his land when he died in 1670? Right? They gave the rest of his land to his white neighbor. Why? Why? His son was living on the land for 5 years and they took the land from him. They took 50 acres from him. He had 250. He sold 200. The 50 got passed to his son and his family, and they took it from him. Why? Because he was black. So I don't know what type of story they're trying to paint, but that's not how it actually went. So June 1676, Virginia, Bacon's Law. Again, this is Statute at Large, Volume 2, page 346. Where we at? And see it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that all Indians taken in war be held and accounted slaves during life. And if any differences shall arise in cases about plunder or slaves, the chief commander of the party taken such slaves or plunder is to be the sole judge, therefore to make equal divisions as he shall see fit. So this is Indians being taken into slavery. I thought they was the Indians. Why they want to erase this history? Because they want to lie to y'all about what happened. I'm not here to lie to y'all. Indians was taken to be slaves too. This is 1676. So I'm giving you the timeline. We going up the timeline. We still ain't seeing nothing else. White slaves. So this is 1705. Slave laws in Virginia. Act concerning servants and slaves. So we see that distinction. You can find this statute at large, volume 2, page 448, 449. Again, I'm giving you the primaries. So, and also being enacted by the authority aforesaid, and is hereby enacted that all masters and owners of servants shall find and provide their servants wholesome and competent diet, clothing, and lodgings by the discretion of the county court, and shall not at any time give immoderate correction. So servants, look, they gotta be clothed, they gotta be fed, they gotta be make sure they got lodging. So I don't know this picture he's trying to paint where these people were treated bad. Neither shall at any time whip a Christian white servant naked without an order from a justice of peace. So you can't even beat this person that you own without getting an order from the justice from the court. And in the end, if any, notwithstanding this act, shall presume to whip a Christian white servant naked without such order, the person so offended shall forfeit and pay for the same 40 shillings sterling to the party injured, to be recovered with the cost upon petition without the formal process of action, as in and by this act is provided for servants, complaints to be heard, provided complaint be made within 6 months after such whipping. So you mean to tell me these white people is being treated so bad, but they got 6 months to complain, and they get to get paid, they get to for any injuries? Like, come on, man. This is, and also being enacted by authority aforesaid, and is hereby enacted that all servants not being slaves, so servant and slave is not the same thing, whether imported or became servant or their own accord, here are bound by any court, church, warden. So it's like I said, imported or become servants of their own accord. Nobody was signing up to be slaves. People were signing up to be indentured servants. Shall have their complaints received by justice of the peace, who, if he find cause, shall bind the master over to answer the court complaint at court. Like I said, these servants had the right; they can call their masters to court. Ain't no slaves doing that, and I'll show you that also. And it shall be there determined, and all complaints of servants shall, and may be virtue hereof, be received at any time upon petition in the court county where they reside. Like I said, you got white people who they want to paint as slaves, got all these rights in the court. So this is October 1669. Remember the one I told you earlier? This is 1705. So this is what, 35 years, 36 years before that. An act about the casual killing of slaves. Whereas the only law enforced for the punishment of refractory servants resisting their masters, mistresses, or overseers cannot be inflicted upon Negroes. Do you know what that only force is? The only force that you can give it, the only actual punishment you can give a servant is extending their time. You can't extend a Negro's time because I remember I told you he's enslaved for life. Then the Negro is enslaved for life. So you cannot. So like I said, the only law enforced for the punishment of refractory servants resisting their masters, mistresses, overseers cannot be inflicted upon Negroes, nor obstinately of many of them by other than violent means suppressed. Being enacted and declared by this Grand Assembly, if any slave resists his master or other by his master's order correcting him, and by the extremity of the correction should chance to
Time,
die.
bro. That's time.
Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. All right, let's get it, man. Let's get it. All right, let me go back to it. All right, let's get it.
All right.
Yep. Get your time ready. So, like I said, he have failed to show you any records where white people was not slaves, where they was not referred to as slaves. There's unaccountable records, right? We're gonna get into Dr. Harley McD Beckles of University of Hull, England, writes regarding white slave labor indentured contacts were inalienable, the ownership of which one could easily be transferred, like that of the other commodity. As with slaves, ownership changed without the participation in the dialogue, consideration transfer. Beckles referred to indentured servants as white proto-slaveries. The Americas, Volume 41. You can look on page. I mean, that's American page. I mean, America's volume. I mean, the Americas, Volume 41, number 2, page 21, is where that is referred to it. All right, and it said in the calendars of the state papers, colonial series, America in the West Indies of 1701, it read, protesters over the encouragement of the spiriting away of English without the consent of selling them for slaves, which had been a practice very frequent and known by the name of kidnapping, emphasis added. Okay. In the British West Indies, plantation slavery was instituted as early as 1627. In Barbados by the 1640s. Excuse me. There was an estimate of 25,000 slaves in the islands, whom 21,700 of them were white. All right. So I don't know what kind of agent stuff these guys do by trying to deny the fact that white people were enslaved here. And we know the demographic of the indigenous peoples who was occupying and running these areas in Barbados, right? We know that the slave laborers in these particular areas go all the way back to 1616. You haven't debated that. Like, according to Elizabeth Dunning, Documents Illustrated of the History of the Slaves Trade to America, page 125 to 126, it says, of the fact that the wealth of Barbados was founded off the backs of white slave labor, there can be no doubt that white slave laborers from Britain and Ireland were the mainstay of the sugar colony until the 1640s. There were few blacks in Barbados, right, during the Downing Road to the John Winthrop and the colonial government of Massachusetts in 1645. The planters who waited to make the fortune in the British West Indies must procure white slave labor out of England. If they wanted to succeed, you see what I'm saying? They would have to bring these people out of England for cheap, the slaves out of England to succeed into the economic gain. And that's according to, like I said, Elizabeth Dunning, right? So I don't know where he going where it wasn't white slaves in America. He said, listen, according to English William Edis, after observing white slaves in America in 1770s, he wrote, generally speaking, they groaned beneath a worse than Egyptian bondage. This is Letters from America, London, 1792. Governor Sharp of of Maryland colony compared the property interest to the planters and their white slaves with the estate of an English farmer consisting of multitude of cattle. So they was referring to white slaves as cattle, sometimes as merchandise, as freight. This is what the documented record says. All right. According to Quock Walker case in Massachusetts in 1783, which ruled that slavery was contrary to the state constitution, was applied equally to blacks and whites. This is a state law. This is a case law of Massachusetts of 1783, where he just read a law that slavery was that nobody could own a Christian or a white slave. That was only in Virginia. Slavery wasn't limited to Virginia. Them laws doesn't apply everywhere else, and we're going to prove that white people were enslaved all the way up to the 1800s as well. Okay? Let's get into it. It said disciplinary and revenue laws of early Virginia Circuit Court, right? 1631, 1645, did not discriminate Negroes in bondage from whites in bondage. That's according to William Henning, editor. Statutes at Large of Virginia, Volume 1, page 174, you find reference. 198, you find reference. On page 200, you find reference. On page 243, you find reference. And page 306, you find reference. The records of the wills in which lands, goods, chattel, cattle, money, Negroes, English servant, horses, sheep, household stuff were all sold together. You can go see the Lancaster County records in the Virginia Colonial Abstract at Beverly Fleet, the editor. Okay, so I don't know why are they denying the fact that white people were enslaved in America? We're gonna move on to another source right quick. Like, I don't understand what is going on. I don't understand what is going on. You understand what I'm saying? It said Emmett asserted, and this is from English servants, and this is not talking about English servants. The servitude program that is going on in London. That's what they calling it, so they can create this economic revenue to build up the low economy that's going on in London, in England, in various different places. Soon as they come here, that's not what they doing. They're slaves. Soon as they enter America. Emmett asserted that during this time, more than 100 young children who were orphans and had taken from their Catholic parents were sent abroad into the slavery in the West Indies and Virginia in New England, and that they might lose their faith in all acknowledgement of their nationality. For in those instances, even the names were changed. Moreover, contemporary writers assert between 20,000 to 30,000 men and women were taken prisoners and sold into the American colonies as slaves. So, what is the point for you denying that white people were enslaved and that your ancestors owned slaves? Or my ancestors, if you're a Negro, if you're Indian, your peoples possibly owned white indentures, white slaves, white forced laborers. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Let's move on to the next segment. All right, let me line it up. My screen sharing. Is my screen sharing?
Yeah, you good. Yep.
Oh, no, I'm not showing the right name. My bad. Go to it. All right. It said around, okay, we were reading that earlier. Let's move on down. It said a few months after the first shipment of the children, the first African slaves were shipped to Virginia, right? Distinguishedly, no American market existed for African slaves until the late 1700s, until the black slave traders typically took their cargo to the Bermuda. English poor were the colony's preferred source of slave labor. even though Europeans were more likely than Africans to die in early deaths in the field, slave owners had a greater interest in keeping African slaves alive because they represent a more significant investment, right? Black slaves received treatment than a Europe. It said black slaves received better treatment than Europeans on plantations, as they were viewed as valued lifelong properties rather than indentured servants with a specific term of service. So they telling you they treated the so-called indentured servants and the white slaves, right, worse than the black slaves. It ain't even supposed to be white slaves. It ain't even supposed to be white slaves at all. So why are we having these conversations in a debate where white slavery didn't exist, but we're talking about white slaves right now? We shouldn't even be mentioning white slaves, right? In the newspaper article I want to pull up. How much time I got left, you guys?
Yeah, that's about time, man. 3 seconds left. So
Let me get a 60-second grace period. It said a broad sight, and this is from a newspaper article, right? White Slaves, which was printed on September 28, 1863. 2 years into the war, reminded Northern laborers just what they were fighting for. Portions were presented of the Senator James H. Hammond in 1858 Mud Seal speech, in which he referred to white laborers in the North as white slaves, right? As white slaves. So I don't know where we're going with this, but I end it right here. It's his time to go.
all right, man. So that was actually an extra 35 seconds. Um, Not a coincidence. You want you an extra 35, bro? The
Yeah,
I'm still,
absolutely. Yeah, I'll take that.
all right, word. I get that for you, man. All right. All right, man. Whenever you ready to start, just let me know.
Yeah, you can share my screen.
All right, we ready now then.
Yeah, the so the things BAP is doing, Aboriginal Power is doing is ridiculous. Like he just showed y'all a book and was like, oh, it's from the newspaper. Why didn't he just go get the newspaper? Right? He didn't even notice that when he used the white they were white and they were slaves book that he referenced the statute at large. That can you share my screen? Can you he referenced the statute at large. That's the book I've been using to show you the Virginia law and how these Negroes have been treated differently this whole time. He used volume one. These are the books I was using, volume one, two, and three, to show you the real Virginia law. But he used a book that quoted from that book, but is not giving you the whole context. And this is why he lost the debate.
Listen, not a
You know
coincidence.
that shit don't even sound right.
Not a coincidence. Since you barking up the tree, we're gonna do whether or not white. Hold on. Since you was pulling up white slaves was in America, we already got that. Let's prove that Negroes and Indians own white slaves in America, brother.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet. Um, so let's get back to it. Can you share my screen for me, please? Am I on the screen?
Yeah, you on the screen.
All right, so we ended here with the casual act of killing slaves, where it says, if any slave, and they're talking about Negroes, if any slave resists his master or others by masters correcting him, and by the extremity of the correction should chance die, that his death shall not be attempted accompanied by a felony. So what they're saying is that if you kill a Negro by correcting him, you kill your slave by correcting him, don't worry about it. You're not going to jail. Unlike you could barely touch these white servants, according to the statutes at large that that the book that AP keeps using. This they were white and they were slaves, written by a white racist. He actually tried to source this book that I'm still using to show you how these niggas was enslaved, but he misused it. So 1750, right? An act declaring the Negro, mulatto, and Indian slaves within this dominion to be real estate, again, property. All Negro, mulatto, and Indian slaves in all courts of judicature and other places within this dominion shall be held and taken adjourned to be real estate. Real estate, right? These people are owning them, right? October 1705, an act concerning servants and slaves. I'm giving you the laws, y'all. And for a further Christian care and all uses of all Christians, mind you, the white people, being enacted by authority aforesaid, and it is hereby enacted that no Negroes, mulattoes, or Indians, although if they're Christian, so remember the Christians over here, right? It's not the same Christians here. Although Christians, Jews, Moors, and Mohammedans, or other infidels shall at any time purchase any Christian servant. So they can't buy any white people, nor any other except their own complexion, right? Notwithstanding purchase any Christian white servant, the said servant shall, if so facto, become free and acquitted from any service. So if a black guy does catch him, does buy a white servant on accident, guess what? As soon as they find out, he's free. This is 1705. I don't know what he's talking about. So now let's get down to the details, something he's not doing. Let's get to the eyewitnesses of the crime, right? So this is a History Natural des Indies, written in 1586, right? So here we go on page 101, 100 and 101 of that book. It says the Spaniards do not force the Indians to work, but down here it says the Spaniards buy a great number of Negroes from Africa to serve them as slaves. This is in 1586. This is in the Caribbean, right? So now let's fast forward to 1619. Negroes stolen from the Spanish ships, sold in Virginia. Remember, these Negroes are sold in Virginia. August 1619. He bought not anything but 20 of our Negroes, right? Says down here at the best and easiest rates they could, right? This comes from the records of the Virginia Company, volume 3, right? 1630. You got John Winthrop and King Philip's Wars, right? Says white settlers from Massachusetts and Connecticut. We had now slain and taken in all some 700. We sent 15 of the boys and 2 women to Bermuda by Mr. William Smith. Well, Smith comes back in February of 1638. Mr. Smith in Salem ship the Desire returned to West Indies after 7 months. He had been at Providence and bought some cotton and tobacco and Negroes. So he took some Indians down there and came back with some Negroes he bought. Here we go in 1750. We got 139 new Negro slaves coming to Charleston, South Carolina. This comes from the account book of George Austin and Henry Lawrence. Like I said, I'm giving you the primary. We can see right up here, Negro slaves, right? Africa. We see this. They came from Sierra Leone. We got 327 new Negro slaves. Where is the white slaves, right? 327 new Negro slaves, right? Where's the white slave? They're from Angola, right? Page 17 in that account book. 82 new Negro slaves, right? Where are they from? Gambia. They're from Gambia, y'all. Negroes. It clearly, all of these say Negroes. Where are the white slaves? So this is slave records from New York, right? It says here, the 5th day of November, 1799, was born to my female black, was born at my house a female black child named Beck, of the body of a Negro woman, my slave. Why is it not a white woman? Another one, 20th day of November, 1799. A black, born a female black child named Priscilla of the body of a Negro woman, my slave, right? Another one, you hear it again. See it here. Negro woman, my property, my slave. That's in 1800. But where is his record? So William Ellison, the black slave owner, we can clearly see here, William Ellison owning black slave. He owned 32 black slaves. And here go his children over here too. They got mulattoes and blacks. No white slaves. Here goes Antoine Doublet, 1860, owned 83 black people, right? This is Louisiana, Iberville. Look, black. All we see is black down here, 1860 federal census. Can the Aboriginals tie themselves to history also? Like, here we go, real quick. This is my 4th great grandfather. Here's a little genealogy for y'all. This is me over here, William Nelson. Those are people, we all did our genealogy and we matched with DNA. This is William Nelson in 1866 on a registered colored cohabiting wife list. He's down here. Over here, you see it says last owner. Henry, his owner was Henry Stokes, 1866. Here goes Henry Stokes in the 1860 census. We see he's white, even though we don't see the W here, but guess what? The instructions to the marshal says, in all cases where the person is white, leave the space blank. So when you're on the 1860 census and you see the blank space, that means they're white. So Henry Stokes is no doubt white. Henry Stokes in 1860, slave schedule. He has 53 black people. He has 3 males at the age of 30. My fourth great grandfather, Henry Nelson, would be 30 around that time. He said that was his owner. He would be on his list. Here goes my fifth great grandfather, Swanee Alexander Early, right? And you see the people I'm related to. Here goes the genealogy connecting me to him, the people that connect me to him. He's on a property tax list in 1783 in what town is this? This is Culpeper, Virginia, 1783. He's owned by a man named Jeremy Early. You see him down here, Swanee Early. How much time I got?
You got 2 minutes, bro. 2 minutes and 3.
I kind of ran through that fast. So what? White slaves in America, a myth. No evidence supports it. So, like I said, yeah, we had black people owning people like Antoine Doublet, like they like to bring up, but they're owning white people. We got William Ellison. He's owning black people, right? They're not owning any white people. We have a black female slave. This is in New York. She gives right. They're being registered. They're held as property. My family. Can the Aboriginals tie themselves in history? He made a statement earlier, like he said, look, these are the white slaves that our people was owning. Well, when's he gonna show us something? When's he gonna show us something tangible? This is my history. This is Black American history. And anybody can look. You got these lists. Register the colored persons cohabiting together, right? 1866. It gives you so much information that you can't get on a census, right? This is before the 1870 census, right? And this is my family down here. William Nelson. He was 36 at the time. Like I said, that's why on the 1860 slave schedule, I know he's around 30 because in 1866 he told us he was 36. Right? Here goes the owner, Henry Stokes. Right? I got way more information on Henry Stokes. But when is BAP gonna get us to some information instead of just showing us these books? Right? When's he gonna do that? Oh, man. Like he goes to this White Cargo by Janet Davy. When we hit the link, what does it go to? It don't take us nowhere. We can't even find the author. It says connecting the music. iTunes. Who wrote that? Where's these claims coming from? Like, where is the evidence? Where is the people? I'm showing you people.
All right, man.
Like this really happened.
That's time. Word, man. So what? This would be the bottom of the third.
Yes, the last of the last.
All right, man. Yeah, because I got questions after y'all do y'all 3 rounds for both of y'all, man. If y'all didn't have no problem with that.
All right, yeah, no problem.
All right.
Once again, we got to talk about the fact that he's not providing any sources where they saying white people were not slaves. Like this is 3-0. I done already showed you the records where the Virginia, he just pulled it up in Daggett itself. He pulled up the Virginia state laws where it shows where they made a statute to where Negroes and Indians can own slaves. Because they was owning them to a certain extent in those particular colonies. That was only limited to the colonies. So let's get to that. Let's get to that, man. This the diagram. All right. So when you go to the Virginia State Assemblies, right, Volume 2, page 280, and also page 81, white slaves were actually owned by Negroes and Indians in the South to such extent that that in the Virginia Assembly passed the following law in 1670 that enacted no Negro or Indian through baptized enjoy the own and freedom shall be capable of any such purchase of Christians, which is what they refer to white slaves as. All right. So I mean that's only in Virginia. You got so many other colonies. You got white people being shipped out to Louisiana, being shipped out to New England, being shipped out to Massachusetts. That law that he's talking about where Negroes can't own slaves, we're only limited to Virginia. All right. It said Negroes also own other Negroes in America, Charleston, constitutional records, where they also own white slaves. And this is in 1754. Okay. You can look at the records, probate court records, right? It said while whites language in chains, blacks were free in Virginia throughout the 17th century. Willie Lee Rose, a documentary history of slavery in North America by John Henderson Russell, Free Negro in Virginia. So it talks about how black people were free and white were still in chains. How can a white man be in chains if you're not a slave? Huh? So that's what we got to understand. That's what we got to understand. That's the case closed. We can show you whites being enslaved all the way up to the 1800s is what I'm saying. It's various different cases. You can go to the University Studies of Pennsylvania, Historical Societies of Pennsylvania, right? University study. All right, let's get into that. Let me pull up the article. All right. We're going to give you a list of white slaves in the 1800s being sold off. Mr. Lee thinks he has a white man. Now, this is determination from the articles above, right? Now, when we get into this is from the Pennsylvania State Heritage University study. All right. It says that he thinks he has a white man. If the matter were to be determined probably by color and appearance, some folks might join him in the conclusion to say his parents were white and that they're dying. When he was very young, he was left in the charge of a slaveholder in Alabama who raised him in slavery and taught him to believe that he was a mulatto, right? He further claims that his name was changed so his relatives might never seek to reclaim him from bondage. This is a white man. That they reclassified him as a mulatto to keep him enslaved in certain areas. All right? We'll move down. In the Philadelphia Public Ledger in December 27, 1860, reprinted in the article of the Natchez, Mississippi newspaper lining, painting a white girl to make her a slave. Painting a white girl to make her a slave. It was stated how in many forms Natchez was on a steamboat on his way to Greenville, Mississippi, when he noticed a young girl aged 9 to 10 with black hair and yellowish brown skin. He was told that she belonged to a gentleman on a board who he was talking to in New Orleans who to sell her for $160. Talking to the young girl long inquisitive, the passenger was informed by the girl how she was an orphan and had been taken from an asylum in New York, and that her hair had been lightly originated and her masters and barber dyed it black and also put yellow dye on her skin. Okay. Various different cases of white people getting sold throughout slavery. Okay? So I don't know what is he talking about. Do I gotta pull up Anthony Johnson where he owned white slaves? Yes, we're gonna get to that in just a second. Okay? So let's continue. Right? Interestingly, such cases in the white slavery in the southern states was not limited. Only in the antebellum or pre-slavery Civil War of the history during the war between the states in 1863. A correspondent of Cincinnati, Ohio Gazette reprinted in the Philadelphia Daily Evening Bulletin related to within the 78th Ohio Infantry Regiment was a man who was taken as a runaway slave into the Union lines of Tennessee. His features and skin color denoted Anglo-Saxon his ancestry, while his eyes were also blue and his lips thin and his hair light. His former Tennessee master had admitted to Colonel Mortimer D. Leggett, right, that these did not have the drop of African blood in his veins. All right. And he had purchased him in Richmond, Kentucky years before, and that he had been into sold into slavery out of some charitable institute, and from which he led to be committed as a vagrant. And this is in 1863. You got white slaves happening all around. As a matter of fact, we're going to get to something else here in just a second. We're going to keep going. Said on December 17th, 1862, the 3rd Michigan Cavalry came into the area and where Grayson purchased a horse and rode into encampment. And there, stop calling my phone. There was an employee, and as it was Cook non-commissioned officer Theodore Reese in the company of F, in which he moved to the north, and thus aided by Lieutenant Carl G. Rogers, and as well as citizens of Jackson, Tennessee, who assisted Grayson in carrying out his own plan. Right now, when you get into this thing, it talks about Grayson having a white slave, and that he did not have any. He was He was indeed a Caucasian and not of black ancestry. Okay? They were selling white people all throughout goddamn the towns. Do you not know how bad they was doing white people in America? You know they was torturing white people in America? In North America as slaves. They went through worse treatment than we did. I don't think y'all understand that. Let's get into that right now. Let's get into the white Christians, right? Why they prevented this law, why Negroes did this, right? Let's get into this. All right, it said before 1650, however, the greater victims of man's humanity were less of the mass of white Christian servants who suffered at the hands of the callous white Christian masters for the time being of all the troubles. The blacks had it better, right? So the blacks had it better, right? So let's get into some shit. All right, it's saying the British West Indies, the torture visited upon the white slaves by their master was routine. Masters hung white slaves by their hands and set their hands afire as they means to punish them, to end the barbarity. I mean, there's various different cases in here, man. Like, I don't really want to go through all of them, but there's so many cases where white people are getting turned to slush. They're getting beat down. And you mean that they weren't slaves? They weren't allowed to do nothing to the slave? Various different records is talking about how white slaves were treated worse often than so-called black slaves. Okay? It's in 1640, the General Court of Virginia ruled that 2 white slaves, principal actors and converts in the most dangerous conspiracy by attempting to run out the county. Right? They charged 2 white slaves with running out the county. And this is the General Court of Virginia.
That's time, man.
All right, let's go.
Word, man. Solid.
We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, get everything together, and then we'll let the moderators come back. We'll be right back in 2 minutes, you guys.
the blacks and John Doe's. Crack open them land patents, let go of them townhomes. What's a native to a native? He $5 dough if he not melanated. Pale faces got you waiting on a savior. Sending prayers up, he texting back on vacation. Yeah, God's children. Give all your praise to Jesus, but how God feeling? He say put no one before him in divine image. It's you with God of Christians. I got a vision, but niggas ain't gotta listen, so they don't. We came from the soil, wasn't fucking with no boats. Bible took our spirit, English potted on our homes. Tribal families turned on us, don't act like y'all don't know. But fuck them and they grudges. We was something turned to nothing. And now we nothing's turned to something. Reincarnation of ancients, fresh up out the oven. This the message to the black man. 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 Shooters on my roof, lawyers in the coop. We can never die, bitch, we bulletproof. This the message to the black man. This the message to the black man. Say you wasn't slaves, you was prisoners of war. You stop wasting your time, these other bitches ain't important. You ain't meditating, you ain't mating with the source. Like what the fuck's a noodle if you ain't painted with the sauce? I find it hard to trust the pastor who rather side with the master, who preaching we should submit while getting murdered and captured. About how we should wait on God is never our vernacular. They get
Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Drop them fire emojis if you enjoy the building. We just put the polls in the chat. Y'all go and pick and make y'all decision on who y'all thought won, man. This should be an easy one for y'all guys, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. Make sure y'all hit them polls. Y'all sure make sure y'all come in and hit the polls. It's very important for you guys to hit the polls. Not a coincidence. Had a couple of supporters in here as well. So make sure y'all hit the polls as well. Pick and see who y'all thought won. You know what I mean? I'll let the moderators take at it, man. Shout out to Not a Coincidence for at least coming through and standing up. A lot of guys don't even accept the base and phase. You see what I'm saying? So shout out to him for at least coming in.
Word. Yo, A1, you got anything you want to say first, bro? Anything you want to ask? Whatever.
Yeah, man. I just want to add to it, right? There should be no literature that states that the word slave came from Slavic people, and they should not put emphasis on it when you really research it. When you really research it, they're giving you clarity that a slave is a Slavic person, and these Slavic people were enslaved all the way into 1865, regardless to whatever records you show me. And then you also got to take in consideration that white is also a status. So there's not like they're dealing with Slavics, which is actually an ethnicity, and they're dealing with Caucasians, who is actually ethnicity. I'm not done yet. So
I thought you were going to ask questions, man.
I'm not asking no question. You already lost.
No,
I'm not even.
Hold on. We're not going to do it.
Me and him supposed to be asking each other questions. You giving your opinion on the debate. You can wait till the debate is really over.
The moderator just asked me, but with all due respect,
I thought you were talking to me and that. I didn't know you was talking to you.
No problem, brother. All right. So let's get into the discussion. We got 5 minutes, and then hopefully everybody has voted, and hopefully the 5 or 6 people you brought over here, hopefully, everything work out perfectly fine for you. I wish you the best of success.
Worry about that. All right, bro. All right, bro. Let's finish this out. Like, stop being a clown, bro. Finish the debate, my nigga.
Let's keep
Yo,
it.
Bat, let me ask you a question. Like, I knew this was gonna be a circus. Bat, let me ask you a question. The last source you left off with, it was they were whites and they were slaves, and they mentioned they was mentioning 2 white servants that left and they got punished.
That one I wasn't using they were white and they were slaves as my last 2 sources. I don't think I even used that as a reference.
No, the book. Hold on. The book you just used. Yes, it was. It was the book you was just in.
Okay. Yeah.
They was white and they were slaves. They said in 1640, 2 white servants ran away and they got punished.
It said white slaves. It said white slaves.
All right, it says white slaves, but that book is misrepresenting history because in 1640, what they're talking about is when John Punch and two white servants left. John Punch is a Negro. Anybody can look it up. John Punch. He's the first servant to be sentenced to life of servitude. So your book intentionally left that out. How do you?
Well, this ain't talking about a life sentence from anyone. It's talking about a 7-year sentence, right? And
I know the white people got 7, but John.
That's talking
but the
about.
Point,
you might be talking about a different court case, but it's giving.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the same thing. The two white people that ran away, they only got 7 years. John Punch got life. And that is showing you that there's a discrimination against black people.
No, that's not
that
true.
System.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. We can look it up right now. If you share my screen, I'll pull it up. John Punch. It's real. It's real. He's the first one. It's nothing.
Well, we know that in Virginia, but slavery wasn't limited to Virginia though. So what
that's that example that you're talking about.
In Virginia started being allocated for on behalf of pale skins, right? Which
can you share my screen?
Your screen ain't sharing.
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
No, the screen. The debate is. Wait, the
debate is not over. Mind your business. The debate is not over.
Debate over with. The debate.
I thought the question.
Hold on,
AP. Jack, you got the floor.
Hold on.
When me and AP talked, the question part was part of the debate. That was the last round of the debate. They said 3 rounds and then questions between me and him.
Listen,
you wasn't even there when me and him talked. What are you talking about?
I'm here
How
now.
you have a debate with no questions? That's how I know y'all scared. This is how I know y'all scared, because I'm gonna pick apart every single thing.
Hold on. Let me get it right. Let me get it right. Get it right. Now you asked your question, so you still got 3 minutes left for your discussion on your question. If AP don't mind you sharing your screen,
I don't mind, bro. But I'm just letting them know the debate is over with. But no, I don't mind. You know, I don't mind him screen sharing, man.
Yeah, then y'all could do that, but you got 3 minutes and 15 seconds, bro.
I don't know why he be doing that. You know, I
don't know why A1 keep jumping in. Like, come on, man, this nigga's a weirdo. So right here, like in your book, it said 2 European men who ran away with him received lighter sentences and extended indentured servitude. So they got the 7 more years. While for this reason, some historians consider John Punch the first official slave in the English colonies. And in his case, as first, bro, it's wiki. It's wiki.
Okay, all right. Okay, I just want everybody to know.
I showed nothing. All right, so now check it out. But you ain't pointing out that he used books the whole time. He never went to one source. He never went to one source.
Mickey Mouse cursive.
Why is he talking? Why is he talking?
Let him get it off, A1.
Why is he talking? How much time I got left? I don't know why this shit is crazy. This is really a debate. Like I knew as soon as I seen him up here, like this shit is. I knew it was gonna be like this. Like I said, his source he just brought up.
Go ahead, brother. You got the floor, brother.
I'm gonna start it back now. Go ahead, bro.
How much time you said?
2 minutes and 35 seconds. 2 minutes and 35 seconds.
All right, so I'm gonna show you. How his source is being very disingenuous, y'all. So this is what he showed. It said in 1640, the General Court of Virginia ruled that 2 white slave principal actors and contributors are most dangerous conspirators by attempting to run away of the country. Right? So why are they leaving out the Negro, the John Punch, the first one? Right? Why are they leaving him out? Because this source is very discreditable. It's lying to you. The source is lying to you. It's showing you. Damn, what I do? Look, they're leaving out John Punch. Why are they leaving out the Negro that got sentenced to life?
Because John Punch didn't leave with 2 Europeans, and it said he's considered to be not a fact, bro. So no. So read them, bro.
Because there's a difference between indentured servant and slave, because he never got considered. Yes, there is. No, yes, there is. Yes, there is. No, I showed you. Everybody's seen it. I showed you in the laws how they made a distinction.
No,
Right
I
here.
didn't. I told you
He's
the law
considered
where
it,
they was
but he's not because he was
because
always
Indians owned them to a certain extent, according to the
there's an
Virginia
evolution of slavery. There's an evolution of slavery. Negroes become the slave. There was indentured servants. I showed y'all the difference.
A whole
These white
100,000
people,
slaves here.
they had to get.
The first
Remember, I showed
African
y'all.
arrived, sir. So what are you
They
talking
had
about?
to. So
So by
back, you forgot.
1640, you already had a list of slaves living in Virginia in by 1616. What are you talking about?
That did you forget where it said the
There's
servant had
no
to
way
get
you
good
can be
food,
considered the
had to
first
get
slave on no
clothing,
means. That
had to
doesn't
make
make
sure that you couldn't even beat them. You had to go to court just to get a permission to beat him. Meanwhile, the Negro can get corrected. If he die, he die. These are distinctions,
That's not the
like with
story.
John
Matter
Punch.
of fact,
When he no, it is the story.
the archaeology, according to the records, the person that was getting through out with the rubbish and beat was a Caucasian male from Northern Europe, is what the record says.
You didn't show a record. You showed
Yes, I
somebody
did.
mentioning that.
I showed
You showed it
what
in this book
archaeological record
mentioning it.
said, and they did what the abstract said. That's what I pulled up.
So why is it only one? Why isn't it just a bunch? We can go. We can see that in abundance with Negroes.
All right, that's time, y'all. That's time on that question, man. So we're gonna give AP the opportunity to ask his question for 5 minutes on the discussion of it, and then after that, I got a few questions I want to ask y'all to round this thing up, man.
Okay.
All right, you can start now, bro.
All right. Hold on. Let me see. Let me pull up this. I want to ask, not a coincidence, why is in the Virginia law of 1619, right, on behalf of Governor Wyatt, right, in 1921, he ordered, right, to see the punishment of for offenses committed by white peoples would also be the terms of labor on behalf of the colonial government, right? They made it a law where it was okay to beat white people, according to the law. Such labor to be performed after the slave fulfilled an original period. Oh, no, I'm not sharing my screen.
Yeah, you sharing?
So why is it so many commonly laws referring
to that's my screen. That's my screen. My bad.
My bad.
But that's my screen. That's not his.
Yeah, my bad. No, that's his screen. All right, my bad. So why is that not a coincidence? Why are we finding laws like this? Why are we finding instances like this?
I would have to say you have to show me the law. That's not the law in that book. I would have to see the law.
All right.
Because I already showed you how that book
is giving you
left out the Negro in one story.
Because
I'm pretty sure it's leaving something else.
It's not talking about the Negro. Why the hell would it talk about the Negro if it's not talking about the Negro? It's referring to the white man, and that white and the Negro is only to be considered. It ain't even an established fact, right? So listen, whites, listen, man. I don't really have no questions, man. I just want to see why is it a law that happened in 1910 called the Mann Act that's called white slavery that enacted officially all around the whole United States that you couldn't enslave or forcefully kidnap or take white people forcefully or any women across state lines at that matter.
Well, they had that law because these white men and men period was taking advantage of immigrant women coming into the country, and they was selling them for
That
sex.
sounds crazy.
That's what happened. The fuck.
All right, I don't have any more questions for you, brother. That's it.
All right. Well, we'll stop the time right there. It was actually 2 minutes 30 seconds left on that, but I guess whoever want to answer first, man. I guess I give it not a coincidence. If you could, precisely as you can, sir, answer. What is or do you consider a difference between slavery and prisoners of war?
You asked that question again.
Um,
Who was it for?
I
First,
think it was for me. I
it's
heard
gonna be for
it was for
yeah.
me.
It's gonna be
I
for
heard
both
this.
of y'all.
my bad. My
But
shit cut out.
yeah, it's gonna be for both of y'all. But it's do y'all consider a difference between slavery and prisoners of wars?
Well, for me, it depends on who was taken hostage. Um, you'll see that in these, even when England, British, they went and invaded Ireland, they didn't treat them as just like anybody. They gave them contracts, and they didn't keep them for life. But when they invaded other countries that wasn't Christian, um, they held them for life and called them heathens. So it
That's
depends on
false.
who's doing it in enslavement.
All right, so you saying basically it depends on who is actually doing okay. Well, what okay, so would you consider human trafficking slavery or prisoner of war? Which how would you define human trafficking if you had to?
I would say that that is a slavery.
You would say slavery?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. AP man, same for you. Do you consider a difference between slavery and prisoners of war?
Yeah, I believe uh, prisoners of war is a term that is put on the people that at least try to fight back on their land from colonists coming to subdue them. So yeah, and I believe it is a difference between someone being forcefully kidnapped or trafficked, right, to being called a slave. I believe there is a difference. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so you do consider so what would you say human trafficking is? Prisoners of war or slavery?
Slavery.
Okay. All right. Okay, so not a coincidence. In the first round, you mentioned that uh there are a evolution of words. In your studies in the 1600s, were the words changed, or did the meaning of the words change from the 1600s up to, let's just say, now? If I'm a, however you want to answer that, bro.
Yeah, certain words did. What word you had in mind?
Uh, well, I mean, I ain't trying to be biased or nothing. It was just a question to really just. I wanted you to kind of elaborate yourself on more of what words you would consider to be, changed on, from the 1600s.
Okay.
No, you
All
should
right.
keep
So
it to Zag. You should keep it to the line of slavery since we dealing with slavery. Was
Well,
slavery
yeah,
changed?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because
yeah, that's what
the
I was gonna
topic
bring
is,
up. I was gonna bring that up.
yeah, the topic is white slavery. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
No, I was gonna bring that up. So like the word slave, when you go to the etymology, it clearly tells you in the 1300s that's when it started being applied to personal property or chattel, and then it gives you the further history of where the origins come from, and the origins do come from white people. I don't that's not the problem with the word. It's just white people started enslaving other people and applied that word to them. And when we're talking about America and American law, like I showed all the definitions and laws um, from the different legal books, where it talks about what a slave is, and it never mentions ethnicity. It strictly mentions someone who's limited in liberty and who's a property of somebody else.
So
Chattel.
hold, stay right there. So if it never read ethnicity, you're automatically trained to think that a slave equals an African being brought over here. But from what AP shows you, AP showed you that white people was being called slaves. And you don't make that differentiate. Even when you see that they're not mentioning ethnicity.
So my response to that is he showed this one book that clearly takes everything out of context.
Okay, so
hold on. You want me to respond or not?
I want to be clear. I don't want to get too caught up in the conversation, right? We got this conversation another time. So did AP show you more than 4 or 5 different sources that mention white slaves? He didn't just use white cargo.
No, not qualifying sources. No, he didn't show any census records. He didn't show any bill of sales. He didn't do anything. I showed bill of sale. I showed registrations of.
You didn't provide anything saying that any of those sources was unqualified. By the way,
that's right. I gave that. We could look at every source.
What you're saying.
You went through the.
We could look at every source. I gave every primary for black people being enslaved.
When you went through the William Ellison and Antoine Dibblick, you didn't even zoom in on the so-called
Yes, I did. I can show you. Want me to pull it back up? I'll pull it back up.
I already got all that. I don't really, you know what I'm saying, really get into that. But
I had the census and then I took a part and put it to the side.
Hold on.
Let's keep it on the
let's keep it. Yeah. I want everybody in the chat to get in there and vote for who y'all want before we release the polls officially in the chat. Shout out to everybody that's in the building.
Yeah, the
so
vote
let me say one thing real quick. Let me say one thing to so not a coincidence. So listen to this. You said that the word Slav and slavery that was abolished around the 1300s and it was applied to everybody. But check this out. So this ain't got nothing to do with the debate. The people want to already make their decision according to the 3 rounds. But this is just something, right? So this is from the diary of Samuel Pepys. Look, this is from the diary of Samuel Pepys, right? It say almost every ancient civilization possessed slaves or enslaved others. The English word slave derived from the enslavement of the Slavic people. Now, this is 1661, right? He said, thus, the word slave was coined in the West, meaning the Americas, right? The impression was of a Caucasian slave. Only in the last century has the shocking history of slavery been selectively read through the lens of American race issues and for political gain. Now, you know, I mean, y'all already had y'all debate, but since you saying that, I'm just asking. I don't have nothing to do with the debate, but I'm just curious to why, regardless of how many different sources AP showed you, why are you still not even being truthful and saying, well, all right, there was white slaves in America. Why are you applying that only to Negroes?
Well, because he's not actually showing sources. That's the problem.
A book is not
Actually, I did. I showed you reference to a source, and I gave you reference to where you can find those on pages.
Yeah, where I can find it. I didn't.
Well,
so if I quoted the law, I actually showed you the law. I actually showed you the law in the law.
No, you know the chat. The chat will definitely decide. The chat will definitely decide who showed the sources. Man, let me get AP his question off, and then I guess y'all can kind of do your little rapid fire until we really close the vote, man. But AP, I wanted to ask you this last one. In your studies, when you're dealing with the topic, what would you consider white to have been from the 1600s in those times as you are speaking about white slavery up into the 1800s? Would you think the term change or like what's your stance on the term white? That's all. If you can elaborate.
I believe that white is something that just added on to give you a descriptive term of who we talking about. Ultimately, Europeans, pale-skinned people came over here as slaves, simply slaves, chattel, merchandise. You feel what I'm saying? Later historians ended up putting a descriptive term to who these people actually is, which is white people. So when we say white people were enslaved, we're talking about Europeans. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about no spookism shit. You know what I'm saying? Just using the descriptive term for colloquial terms today. That's all.
Word then. All right. Well, that's all I had for the question, man.
And then the record said that Indians and Negroes owned slaves. So, and that's according to the same Virginia courts records. So,
word.
So, let me ask you. Oh, my bad.
Okay, yeah, that's why I say if y'all gonna get it in, man, I guess what y'all gonna get it in for another 5 minutes to really check each other and because obviously it is the topic is white slaves in America or whatever, and it's not really so broad to expound on, but uh it's either you prove it or you didn't, so it's up to the people to decide, and we'll go from there, man. But y'all can bang it out, I guess.
So, yo, back. You kept saying they own white people. They did white people dirty. So I keep trying to get you to the point. Like, who is they? When are we gonna see they? Like the actual people. Like I showed you William Ellison. I showed you Antoine Dubulet. I showed you my family. When are we gonna see these actual people in records? And did your people own any white people since it was so common?
uh, listen, man, the records is there, man. All you got to do is comb through. I'm not giving you a list of niggas who own them. It is a list of niggas. We gave you a couple. What you want every nigga that ever owned a white slave? The point is the records talks in general, right? When they making these laws and they making it, they making it in for everybody. Niggas and Indians owned slaves to the extent where they had to pass a law in Virginia. That's just Virginia. Slavery was still going on. Even after 1808, even after 1865, niggas was still selling white slaves. You see what I'm saying? And that's just the
So
fact.
that's you misrepresenting what it says again. It said niggas
You
can't
haven't
own
you
servants.
you
And
just provided.
in the law, like I showed, no, it said niggas can't own servants, white servants. And in the law, it showed you the difference between a servant and a slave. Y'all keep trying to make like servants and slaves are the same. I
Hey, you
clearly
just
showed
provided
they're not the
yourself.
same.
You just provided yourself that you said that in 1900s that they passed the law where the Mann Act, which is formerly known as white slavery, right, was just passed. So and that was for outside of Virginia at this particular point for the whole United States. So you already admitted that white people
1910,
was being.
1910, really? 1910, really?
Hey,
You
bro,
really think that's what this conversation is about? I
was white
mean, hey,
was white people
listen,
being
hold on,
cooked?
bro.
Hey, hold on. What I'm saying is, in 1909, was there Negroes forcefully taken, right, and transporting people or not?
So what you're doing is no, they wasn't being
No, I'm asking you a
taken.
question.
No,
Was it?
no,
Was there?
no,
Was they not,
no,
bro?
no. Show me the auctions. Show me the auctions where these white
No, I'm
women were
asking
being
you a
sold.
question, bro. I'm asking you a question.
No, I said no. No, they wasn't. No.
So
Show me the
there's no
auction.
record, there's no documented record of no Negro taking a white person or a
What
woman
happened
without
to the selling part? What happened
forcefully,
to the selling part? What happened
bro,
to the selling part?
forcefully, bro. I'm talking about, dude, they already bought it. We're not talking about
Did
the
a
seller.
black man
We're
ever
talking about,
kidnap a white woman? Of course.
bro,
That's not what we're talking about, though, brother.
they might not sold it. He could have inherited a slave, right? The point is, where's
That's
their,
not
you're not
happening. They was
answering the
not
question,
inheriting these
bro.
white women.
You're
They
not
wasn't
answering
inheriting
the
these white
question,
people.
bro. You're not answering the
No, 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 no. They wasn't
Okay,
inheriting
that's
the
a
white
lie. That's a
people.
lie.
It wasn't being
That
passed
was
down.
actually a law passed because of a
No, they
Negro.
wasn't,
I
brother.
didn't say nothing about selling, bro. We talking about slavery, bro. We talking about white slavery. I'm asking you right now a simple question: was there a Negro ever charged, committed, or records of forcefully, You feel me? Transporting. Same question Jaguar asked
So
you.
we are talking
As
about
a white
slavery.
person.
That's the debate. That's the debate about slavery.
That's what we're
So
talking about. So I'm
in
asking you a question.
that sense, no.
That's a lie though, because there's so many cases. So you don't want to admit that there's a black person forcibly transporting a white person, which you agreed upon earlier that's
I already
slavery.
agreed that black
You
people
don't want to admit
kidnap white women.
All right,
Sure,
bro, it's over with.
that has nothing to do with slavery or the debate.
The men that
But like I said, but
actually
what you did do
white slavery.
was
It's
deflect.
called white slavery, sir. That's what it's called. That's what it's formally called. It's called the Mann Act, but formerly known as white slavery, brother. That's what it's known as. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm asking you, is there any
This is
record
after 1865. This isn't the foundation of America. Like that is so disingenuous for you to even try to bring that up.
Bro, it's not disingenuous because this is just a repeated system that somebody else had already seen from hundreds and hundreds of years, going back to the 1600s. These people were being sold throughout.
I get it. You're trying to deflect from my question.
Various different cases.
You're trying to deflect from my question.
No,
you can't
never answer my question. You lied. You already lied about it.
You didn't lie about anything. You wanna try to bring up Jack these you wanna bring up him. Like who cares? He got charged for bringing women across state. He wasn't buying them at no auction.
He's not the only person to be he's not the only person to be charged with white slavery.
It wasn't that case. It wasn't that case.
What I'm telling you is you're not explaining why or what it is.
It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same.
That's
if one of the white women ran away and ran to the police wouldn't return her as property. They would go and
you're denying the fact, bro. You're denying
what you're doing is the add
black persons would have transported a white person.
Hey, Mike, check,
slavery, bro. And that's a fact.
Yeah, that's the 5 minutes, fellas. Y'all, it's about time to close the poll.
Let's separate them, bro. They can't. Let's separate them for a minute.
No, it's good. It's good. Hey, shout out to everybody in the building. I'm dropping the poll right now in the chat officially. It's dropped in the chat, you guys. 57% AP, 42%. Not a coincidence. A total cast of 69 votes.
All right. That's a solid, you know what I mean? A solid votes.
Shout out to Not a Coincidence.
Shout out, man. Hey, I ain't gonna lie, man.
Hold on. Yeah. I gotta say something. So that many people's that goddamn dumb? 40-something% of y'all that goddamn dumb.
You gotta be fair, Chief. You gotta
I'm being 100% fair. Okay, how about this? See, this is why we gotta have people who look over stuff. He's always asking about anything that is provided to him. Where did that come from? This and that and the third. Okay. Why he don't use that same scrutiny for the stuff that he pulls out that says from the 1500s when it's not from the 1500s? Why don't he do that? Also, if we know that black and white is a caste system, at some point it wasn't there. So are these people writing this concept of them being in social, political, economic power back in time? I submit that they are. You can't own people if you don't have land and wealth. These people didn't come over here with nothing. So when I hear Not a Coincidence and these people like in this chat room saying the dumb shit that they're saying for pale skinned people, y'all are pushing Peckerwoods in y'all face, man. No, sir. You talked enough. You talk too much in this community, sir. Hey, bro, the information that you provided is CIA work. Why are you talking? Why are you talking right now? Why are you talking right now? Why are you talking right now?
I can't.
I'm talking though. You cut me off. I'm not talking to you.
I don't care.
I'm not asking you no question. I'm not talking to you.
I can care less.
Bro, you should be banned.
Don't get it off now,
You should
coincidence.
be banned.
It's all good. Hey, shout out to
Yeah,
your
no,
people
I'm just
who
saying.
came through to
I'm
show
just
you
talking about the
love.
information that he
There's a
provided,
lot of
bro.
people in here that came through to show you love in here. They voted in the chat. And shout out to them. You know what I mean? Shout out to all the Aborigines that showed up too, man. You know what I'm saying? And listen, this will be dropping officially, and I will it'll be another poll out for this publicly for more people to broadcast and be able to look into as well. So make sure y'all, and we get the polls on that as well. The records will be out on that as well. So y'all just tap in. Shout out to everybody that's participating, that supported the paper view. Shout out to all my members. Shout out to everybody. You guys will be able to watch the replay.
I would have brought my gang up here if I'd have known it was gonna be like that.
Bro, you ain't got no game, bro. All you doing is regurgitating CIA,
No. We really about to get out
Nah,
of here.
but that good shit
Hey,
though.
well, now I'm about to go live and I explain
Yo, Bat,
how I
I'm
feel
gonna
about
holla
this
at you.
shit. Nah, fuck
Hey,
you.
hold on, Chief.
You niggas better than my shit.
Hold on, Chief.
Fuck you, bitch. Yo, Bat. Yo,
Hold on,
good
now,
shit.
coincidence. Hold
You
on.
suckers that ain't around you, man.
I'm gonna let you speak to your people before you get out of here. And Chief, if you setting up to go live, let me know. I'm gonna put you in the redirect real quick too. So we can meet everybody over there.
I just said it. I don't know. There's a lot of dumb motherfuckers in this crowd. I don't know if I want them motherfuckers over there. Like a lot of y'all voted for this bullshit though, for real, for real. This is what I be talking about. Y'all wasn't even paying
Information
attention.
speaks.
Nah, bro, y'all wasn't even paying attention. That wasn't even paying attention though, bro.
Chief, let them get it out. Let them get this stuff out, brother. Let them get this stuff out. It's all good. We're gonna be fair. You know, I'm Mr. Non-biased. Y'all know that. I know y'all niggas. I know it's acting like it's something new. I know y'all have a certain intention towards not a coincidence, but you know, try to be modest for your brother. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This was a debate. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like he'd do the same for me on his platform. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it was actually a solid debate though, man. I ain't gonna front. He held his ground as far as like sticking to what the information he could provide, you know, trying not to prove that it was white slaves. But honestly though, I ain't gonna lie, man. I think you should have chose more so proving that it was more Negroes being enslaved than white slavery. I think that would have kind of worked out in
That's
more
what I showed, brother. That's literally what I showed.
No. Listen. And he could have definitely did that, and that would have been a good angle. But it would have still not negated the fact that white people were enslaved. He was in total odds that white people were enslaved at all. I proved that white people were enslaved. So that's just the facts.
Let me just say this. I'm gonna get up out of here. Yo, Bat, appreciate you.
You know it's all love.
It was a good debate. I'm about to go live. Anybody who fucking with me, I'm about to go live. But like I said, I didn't show that whites was enslaved. I showed that whites was classified as indentured servants, and in the law, an indentured servant is something totally different from a slave. But yo, good shit. We're gonna review this later. I'm gonna holler at you back. Y'all have a good night, man.
Oh, don't go nowhere. Yeah, I got a question for you. I got a question. You still in on a coincidence?
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Drop a fire emoji if y'all enjoyed the live stream too. By the way, if y'all enjoyed the debate, drop a fire emoji before y'all get out of here. Just let me and coincidence, not a coincidence, know that y'all enjoyed. Drop a fire emoji. All right.
Go ahead, A1. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you gonna get a win, man, around here, man? I mean, like, I think you shooting for the stars. That's the reason. Like, you know, you got to start off with somebody in your weight class and try to get a win there before you go to the heavyweight division. So you jump in the gun, man. You want to debate the God of Hanu, then you want to debate AP, and like it's not really working out for you, my man. You know, so I don't know, man. Maybe you know you hang around there. You be in Garfield chat. You be in all these other Pan-African chats. Next time, make sure that you mark it that you got a debate coming up, so some of them people can come over here. And I think a lot of them people.
Next time we'll have a little, which we have about a 3 week, you know what I mean, schedule for this. So you know what I mean. Next time we'll probably do it 30 days so we can market it a little more.
Yeah, no, he could have called 1 week out, bro. 1 week out, he could have called all the Pan. He be in the chat room with them all the time. So I don't know why they wouldn't come and wouldn't support this, man. So I'm like, you know, we can't help if your people not supporting you, my man. But at this moment, you are 0-2. So, you know, like when you come around, you know, just sit in the back, you know, don't ask too many questions and just learn.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm definitely 2-0.
It's obvious what you believe is not getting you nowhere. So maybe
Well,
you should.
obviously, look, it was almost 50%. So if there's 60-something people in there, it's either I got more people in here than y'all
so I
saying.
don't, you know.
I got more people in here than y'all saying, or I converted a couple of y'all people today. Which one we going with?
Well, to be honest, we recorded a little bit over 41 people. I know I gave away free tickets. I know you gave away free tickets as well. So I don't know. Sometimes people accidentally share and try to share the link. So I don't know. But yeah, you had quite a few of your people in here. Salute to them for coming through too. So yeah.
All right, but y'all, hey, I'm out of here, man.
Hey, NAC, what's your name?
Somebody who don't want to talk to me, you really want to talk to me today, man? What's up?
I mean, you just make sure.
We out of here. This was a massacre. I'm about to do the after party over there. We about to do the after party, y'all. I see y'all.
Somebody pick BAP up, man.
Man, that nigga Not a Coincidence dead, man. What you talking about? Hold on. I don't know a comedian. Hold on. Not a coincidence. Hold on. I'm talking to a ghost. What the fuck? This shit just scared the shit out of me.
It was a good one. Appreciate it, y'all.
Hey, you already know, man. Hey, enjoy that casket, man. You got a nice cushion in there. See you on
Hey, man, I kind of heard that Atlanta smoke too, man, from Lucky. You know what I'm saying? But you really ain't worthy, dog. I'm going to let you, you know, do some more homework before you try to really step in that ring, man. I heard, I was listening yesterday, man, to the show, you know, last night. I was like, okay, he calling out some work, but, you know, just know I heard you, but, you know, your arm's too short right now. So we just gonna leave it at that, man.
Lucky, you might have to come get with the God. Come, young Jaguar, and get some get back for your boy. Not a coinky dink. You feel me? You might have to get some get back for Not a coinky. You feel me? But listen, man, we out there, man. We're gonna do the after party over here on the other side, man. So I see y'all on the other goddamn side, y'all. Peace and blessings, man. Y'all know the vibrations. We out of here. Peace and love to everybody.
See, my life has been in motion. I'm a little windy. I'm not giving up yet. If you with me, time to place up your bet. Ain't no turning back. Got niggas who ran. When we caught his ass, got caught in that jail. Yeah, you know who I am. Yeah, you know who I am. I can feel it coming.